for tonight. I'm also the youth coordinator for the campaign. So really excited to have so many people here with us today. So once again, going to give it a few minutes for people to join. But in the meantime, please drop in the chat where you're calling in from. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Rosa, should we record tonight? What do you think?
Yes, we will be recording tonight. We'll be recording the session and sharing it afterwards. So actually, we wanted to encourage everyone to share it with your friends and co-conspirators, so to speak. So this session will be recorded. So if you have a friend who couldn't make it tonight, let them know and be prepared to share this with them. All right, perfect. Wow, look at that. We have people from all over the place. Great to have so many folks here. And I just wanted to say, just a heads up, for those who would like to access live interpretation from English to French for the call this evening, you can access that by clicking on the globe at the bottom of the screen. And I just wanted to thank the volunteers who have made this possible for us tonight. Et maintenant, pour les francophones, pour ceux qui souhaitent bénéficier d'une interprétation en direct du français vers l'anglais pour la conférence de ce soir, vous pouvez y accéder en cliquant sur le globe en bas de votre écran. That was the French, not as good as Avi's, I would say, but again, for folks, there is live interpretation, volunteer ran live interpretation for those who need it. I see folks are continuing to trickle in, so make sure to just introduce yourself like everyone else is doing so we can all get to know each other a little bit.
Wow, the slides are really nice.
Yeah, they're beautiful. My God.
I have to say, Rosa, while we're waiting for people, I'm sure people have noticed that the design sensibility on this campaign is tasty. And Adam Warner is someone that we found right when we were putting the team together a couple of months ago. And Adam has done such a beautiful job making everything we do look exciting.
Absolutely. He made an incredible logo for the Youth for Avi Instagram account.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I can't watch most of the things on that channel because it's so good. It's so cool though.
Oh yeah, there's more to come for sure. All right, it's 8:04. We'll give it just a minute for people to join. Just make sure you're continuing to introduce to those who just joined to introduce themselves. Oh, and Adam is in the chat with us today. Hello, Adam. Yeah, shout out to him for all of the great graphics and the great design we have on this campaign. All right. It is now 8:05. We want to make sure we're staying on time, so I'm just going to start proceedings now. I wanted to welcome everyone. Once again, my name is Rosa, pronounced she, they. I'm joining you today from Waterloo, and I'm the youth coordinator from the campaign. And before we begin, I would just like to acknowledge that I'm joining, from the shared traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Together, I would like us to acknowledge the continued injustices faced by Inuit, Métis, and First Nation peoples across Turtle Island, as well as the ongoing process of decolonization. And so with that, in terms of a couple of housekeeping items before we get into it, there are closed captions available, and we do also have tech support via the chat. And as Avi mentioned at the very start, we will be recording this session and sharing it afterwards for those who joined a little bit late. We strongly encourage you to share it with your friends and colleagues. And so with that, in terms of the agenda, tonight we're going to talk about the challenges confronting young people, the true culprits, behind the crises we're facing, and finally, the solutions to these challenges we're facing. Then we'll hear from Bushra Asghar about how you can plug into the campaign to get Avi Lewis elected as the next leader of the federal NDP. All right. And of course, today I'm going to start off by just introducing quickly the stars of the show. Um, so, of course, as many of you presumably know, Avi himself is a journalist, a UBC teacher, a proud dad, and a Telecaster fanatic. He's running to be the next leader of the federal NDP and is calling for a party that refuses the tech right, that names capitalism as being at the root of the crises we're facing, and that unites working people instead of chasing the mushy middle as we have been for so long. So that's Avi. Um, um, and then next up, we have two panelists. First of all, we have here Karishma, also known as Karishma Climate Girl, who is a climate storyteller, content creator, and educator who loves to bring nature and sustainability into everyday topics, bringing light and hope to an otherwise daunting conversation. Karishma guest lectures at institutions like Wilfrid Laurier University, where I go to, actually, and the University of Western Ontario on how to talk about climate change and how we can change a narrative of doom to a narrative of doing. And then I wanted to introduce someone I've known for quite a long time, worked with him for quite a while in the youth wing. Armaan Singh is the co-chair of the Young New Democrats, putting forward an eco-socialist vision for the party. Before that, he served as co-president of the University of Ottawa Young New Democrats Club and spent several years as a student activist, serving as advocacy commissioner, president for 2 years, and as board member of the University of Ottawa Students' Union. He's currently a grad student and works as a labor organizer for a faculty union, focusing on promoting union democracy and building worker power. So we have a really amazing panel here tonight, eager and ready to talk about the issues facing youth. So I just wanted to give a huge round of applause to Karishma and Armaan for joining us and Avi tonight. And then I wanted to go ahead and hand it off to Avi.
Rosa, thank you so much. Bienvenue tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici avec vous tous et vous toutes ce soir. This is our second solidarity session, and I'm really delighted to be addressing issues facing youth in Canada today. And what a superstar panel. Rosa, it is such a pleasure to see you in our Discord, doing so many things on the campaign. Karishma, I have long been a fan of Karishma Climate Girl, and I'm a little bit starstruck to be on a webinar with you. So I'm just gonna leave that there. And Armaan, the power that you've already built within the NDP, within the youth wing of the NDP, is impressive and really important. So I'm just very grateful to be with you all tonight. You know, as part of the leadership campaign, we've been traveling the country. So far we've been from Victoria to Halifax. We're going to get to Newfoundland for sure, and I hope to the north as soon as possible, and all points in between. And really, the crisis that we all face at this moment in Canada, the crises, overlapping crises, are facing young people really in the most serious way. The affordability crisis, what we call on the campaign the everyday emergency of just trying to get by in an impossible economy. Young people are by far the most affected by this. And because the cost of education is out of control. I started my career in the 1990s when they took the brakes off of tuition. Tuition used to be tightly regulated all over Canada. People would pay $1,200 or $1,500 for an entire year in a full course load. And that just sounds like an absolute fantasy today for college and university. And there are high school folks on this call as well, I think, because we have a huge range of different people in this audience. But the cost of living, the cost of education, the cost of housing, it's a cliche now to talk about an entire generation of people who will never even dream of owning a home. I don't buy that, because we're going to fix this and we're going to bring in a Green New Deal and we're going to overturn this system and actually create hope and possibility for all of us. And we're going to do it all together by building that much power behind the kind of politics that we're advancing. But in the current system, it is incredibly unfair for young people. I notice because I teach at UBC as well when I'm not running for politics, the young people can't find any work. And most importantly, so many young people can't find work in the fields that they are passionate about. And I think that's an even bigger crisis, which is often not named. It's not just can you find any old shitty job, it's can you find meaningful work in the things that you really care about. I think that alone is a crisis. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the climate emergency. So this is a dialogue tonight. I'm not going to speak longer than that. I just want to acknowledge that there's a whole range of different people in this space tonight. There are young people who are new to politics and excited to get involved. There are young people who have been active in politics for a really long time. And I'm sure that there are lots of older folks too who came to warm their hands at the fire of youth, as boomers tend to do. But let me throw it over to my amazing guests to talk about the challenges, as we divide this conversation into challenges and consequences and culprits and solutions. Armaan, how do you see the challenges facing young people today? It's a huge question, but I know you think about it all the time.
Exactly. Alors, en commençant, je veux juste reconnaître que je vous joins du territoire non cédé des peuples Algonquins et Anishinaabe. Simplement dit, les jeunes traversent une crise historique. Il y a une crise de pouvoir d'achat, crise de l'accès à l'éducation, crise climatique, crise démocratique, tout en même temps. Aujourd'hui, parler des défis qui touchent les jeunes, c'est parler des réalités quotidiennes qu'on fait face. Nos loyers explosent, nos salaires stagnent et les dates de scolarité nous écrasent. Et on fait face à un avenir écologique qui est vraiment incertain. Et en parlant avec mes camarades, on sait que notre génération est en première ligne d'un modèle économique qui ne fonctionne pas pour la majorité d'entre nous. Et plus spécifiquement, l'éducation pour secondaire est devenue un fardeau. On doit le démocratiser, car pour beaucoup d'entre nous, étudier est devenu un luxe. Moi, je suis étudiant en maîtrise en ce moment et c'est vraiment difficile d'être étudiant en temps plein sans travailler. Alors, nos frais de scolarité montent et la dette explose. Et l'accès dépend trop souvent sur des ressources familiales. Et beaucoup d'entre nous sont soutenus par nos parents. Et si on veut réellement parler d'égalité des chances, je pense qu'il faut reconnaître que l'éducation est un bien public et pas un produit réservé pour les plus privilégiés. Alors, c'est une des crises que moi, je fais face à chaque jour et mes collègues, mes camarades, c'est top of mind, as we say. Avi, you're muted.
Yeah, no, I know, I know. Karishma, I know that you mostly do communications around climate, and I think it was really only, maybe 5 years ago that climate grief and climate anxiety sort of became named in our culture as a thing, but it really is one of the fundamental challenges facing young people today.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for having me, everyone. I'm calling in from Kitchener, which is the land of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Haldimand Tract. I saw a few other people in Waterloo, and I know Rosa as well, so shout out.
KW is always big in our campaign. Trust me, power
Yeah,
of
no, we
KW is
love
ever
that.
present.
Love that. And KW is surprisingly progressive too. So if anybody wants to connect over those issues, I'm very lucky to live here. Um, but to answer your question, Avi, it's interesting to me that climate grief and climate anxiety have become buzzwords per se in the last 5 years. I feel like I've been feeling it since I was, a young girl. And especially since I turned 18 and I was like, what do I want to study for my undergrad? With climate in the back of my mind. At the time, I didn't even know that there were climate careers. Now that I've switched into climate, both as my side hustle and my main job, I get questions from people where they say climate is a sector we want to get into, but it's not one that can support the cost of living in this country. And it's not one that's easy to break into either. I saw someone in the chat, they wrote that they bust for hours to go to North York like 3 times in a week to try and find a job. And when we talk about what are the challenges confronting young people, I think that one comment really tied it up well. It's a lack of jobs, it's a lack of purposeful jobs. But then there's also the lack of all these little tools we need to even access things like transit, right? Like being able to even get to a job interview or being able to maybe access healthcare such that you feel well enough to go to a job interview. There's a lot of seemingly smaller, but actually it's like a death by a thousand cuts situation, holding people back from finding jobs and finding purposeful jobs. So, Avi, I'm really excited to see you run, and I'm really excited to see that this is top of mind for you, because it's certainly top of mind for young people, especially a lot of young people that I have the privilege of talking to about career and work.
Yeah, I just want to lift up that thing about transit, I know that young people today, most young people that I know have no intention of owning a car. It's super expensive. It's totally inconvenient. And it's if you're going to take on debt, you're thinking about taking on debt for housing, not for transportation. But what that means is that young people are almost universally subjected to the crappiness of our what's happened to our public transportation system. And a friend of mine said to me recently something that really stuck with me. When you're stuck on public transit, you are reminded of your powerlessness in this system. If it takes you an hour to get to class or to a job interview or to the doctor or 2 hours, you could be late, you could be stressing, this could be a really important moment in your life, and you have no power whatsoever to get there on time because you're waiting and waiting, you're sitting in traffic on a bus, on a train, whatever. This is how the system actually reinforces that it's not for you. And I think young people are once again, on the cutting edge of that. How do you guys relate to this sense of powerlessness? Because I think it's what makes people feel like doing politics is pointless. I mean, lots of people don't feel that way, but lots of people do, because everything about the system is designed to give us messages that we have no agency.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's not even sorry, Armaan, I'll
No, no,
finish
go ahead,
quickly.
go ahead.
Just
Yeah.
on a little point that Avi made there. Maybe you don't have a job to go to. Maybe you don't have a doctor's appointment to go to. Maybe you just want to see your friends. Like maybe you just want to see your parents. And I feel like we're all struggling to even just like meet our needs. And we're forgetting that community and friendship and kinship is all a part of that. And I feel like Avi, if you're addressing these issues of trying to remove challenges to get people to get jobs and get people to access healthcare, you also like this rising tide is going to lift all boats in the sense that like it's also going to help people access the people that they love and community, which is so incredibly healing and so incredibly needed in a time in this like post-pandemic weird world that we live in. And I think that that can't be forgotten, right? Like the power of like accessing community and love, and maybe a good bus system is part of that, I think that's not to be forgotten. Go ahead, Arman.
Yeah, no, I was just like completely agree. And Avi, I really like how you mentioned in the beginning, like it's about questioning the systems that were were being presented as the obvious, the only choice. Like we see our government, announcement after announcement, ribbon cutting after ribbon cutting, telling us, oh, we're investing in housing, we're investing in transit. But to what end? Like I live on a street where we rent, or my entire street is owned by the same landlord, a corporate landlord. And we see new housing coming up, but it's housing that isn't affordable. It isn't actually geared towards the kind of housing we need to see. But young people are doing everything that we're meant to be doing. People go to school, we're getting jobs, but our salaries are stagnating and school is becoming more and more inaccessible to people. And on top of that, the system is setting us up in a way where we're being squeezed from all ends. And so not only can we not get to work in a way that's convenient or dignified, but when we come home, we're being faced with rent increases. Um, and when we go to the grocery store to pick up, ingredients for dinner, we're footing a larger and larger bill each time.
Yeah.
So it's this hopelessness is quite structural, and I find it's quite politically corrosive.
We are talking about the consequences of all these challenges young people face, and it's worth naming that there are reasons. There are culprits. Il y en a des coupables, il faut dire. I just want to before we get into this, one quick message, because there's a few people talking about love of cars in the chat and how out of touch I am by saying young people don't like cars. Didn't say young people don't like cars. Lots of people love cars. I love cars and driving. I don't believe on a policy point of view that we're going to solve the climate crisis by just all shifting into personal vehicles that happen to be electric. We need mass transit for the giant working class of this country. And we need it to be fast, we need it to be free, and we need it to be efficient. But of course, lots of people love cars. And I think there's, something we ought to make a point of touching on as this conversation unfolds is the pull that the right-wing media and online ecosystem has on young people, where we're getting these cultural divides. Like, if you criticize car culture, are you suddenly a libtard? And it's only in the right-wing manosphere that you're allowed to love cars. I reject all these things. I think we all contain multitudes. We're way more complicated than that. But we have to accept that one of the consequences of this economic desperation that so many of us are living in is that more and more young people are being drawn to the right. Do you guys see this, Armaan, Karishma? Do you see this in the work and the worlds that you move through?
I'd say, yeah, it's definitely a global phenomenon. Young people are either being pulled to the right or, they're leaving politics altogether. And I find that, it's very disappointing, but I think it's because the institutions that exist aren't really stepping up to the plate and actually addressing the issues and like walking the talk, essentially. We keep saying that we want young people to have a future they can be proud of, but we need to follow those words with decisive action. And that's why I'm really excited that you're running, Avi, because we need audacious and like bold policy shifts, and we can't become a party that, keeps tilting more and more to the center.
I suck at weasel words. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to make mistakes. I may have already made a few in this campaign, but it's just not a skill for me. I tend to say what I think, and I hope people appreciate that. Karishma, did you want to say anything about the magnetic pull of the right wing, of the extreme right in this moment?
I think I've seen a lot of people slide that way, and it'll start with small things, right? Even if you think about cars. And what I love about your message, Avi, is that you're not, you know, dunking on people that drive cars. You're more so saying we should have a choice. We should have a choice to take public transit. What I see these days are young people going into debt to own a vehicle because otherwise they can't get to work. That's not a choice, right? And I know you're going to go on to talk about the culprits here, but to speak to the allure of the right, it's like we're forced into these cars, and then by by this is just a small example, but then by associating ourselves with cars, we then think, oh, am I now associated with the right wing because I don't take the bus?
Right.
Absolutely not, right? This is almost like the pull of the right is because of these large culprits that you're about to talk about.
Mhm.
They're flexing their muscles and making it feel like they're on our side, but
Yeah.
they're not, right?
C'est ça exactement. Je vais parler quelques mots en français pour Marwan, le traducteur, héros traducteur de ce soir. C'est ça. On peut montrer l'image autrefois si on veut. Je ne sais pas. Mais les coupables, il y a des coupables, certainement. Mais nous, dans le MPD, nous sommes le seul parti qui critique le capitalisme, comme Armaan a dit. Et donc, nous sommes le seul parti à pouvoir raconter pourquoi la vie est impossible. Et c'est très clair. Il existe un lien entre la petite poignée de grandes entreprises qui dominent tous les secteurs de l'économie et le fait que la vie est inabordable. Il y a des responsabilités. Cette poignée d'entreprises engrange des profits et nous payons plus cher. C'est ainsi. Il y a 5 chaînes d'épicerie, 5 grandes banques qui financent 5 compagnies pétrolières. Il y a 3 entreprises de communication. Ils fixent les prix, ils contrôlent les marchés. Ils profitent de la crise, en fait. Alors, on a besoin des solutions aussi grandes que les crises auxquelles on fait face. Et nous aborderons ces solutions plus tard dans l'événement. But basically, this is where we're at. We have an economy which is dominated by a small number of huge players. And I think young people really understand this. The system talks about competition, and there isn't. And anyone with a cell phone, which is every single one of us, knows that we got Rogers, Bell, and Telus. They charge the highest freaking prices and they have the shittiest service anywhere. And I live in Vancouver, a tourist city, and I think you guys know, you have friends who visit from other places and they're like, how much is your cell phone bill? Sorry, what? And this is the thing about the NDP is like we are the party of the left who's prepared to name and shame the people who are responsible for the fact that the economy is impossible. And I just think that's something we really have to lean into in these days, because the gap between the 1%, the 0.1%, Galen Weston is worth $18 billion. And at the other end of that system is people who are skipping meals to feed their kids, or students who are living on, instant noodles because their rent is thousands of dollars a month. And I think we need to channel this and lean into it as a source of the power and of the legitimate rage that people have, which leads to a kind of economic populism on the left. And I think this is how we do battle with the rising right. Do you, Armaan, Karishma, do you feel the young people is this as clear to young people? To me, it must be even clearer, the giants that sit astride our economy and how just unfair it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Avi, I don't speak French, so if I repeat anything you said, please stop
Just
me.
means we agree, that's all.
You named monopolies, right? You named like big corporate heavyweights as the culprits, but what I want to add to that list is politicians that enable them to sit on that throne. And that's why, we're looking to leaders like you to dethrone them and take away the powers that allow them to amass this much strength and influence over our lives. We've all been following, the pipeline announcements, and you hear Danielle Smith talk about like the 9 big bad laws, but that's what we need to rein in for what I call the climate culprits of oil and gas companies, right? And the way that the right has spun this narrative, making red tape out to be the enemy as opposed to the power amassed by these monopolies and these big corporate heavyweights. I think part of the culprits definitely are politicians that have power right now. They all have their hands in each other's pockets, I'm guessing, and are allowing these companies and these big, powerful people to control our lives.
Yeah.
Je suis complètement d'accord. Et une autre chose moi je veux ajouter, c'est que en tant que jeune, je me sens qu'on est en train de vivre une austérité comme permanente.
Oui.
Comme depuis des décennies, les gouvernements au niveau fédéral et provincial, mais les gouvernements provinciaux le font avec le consentement des gouvernements fédéraux, car ils coupent dans le logement, dans l'éducation, qui est le secteur que moi je travaille, la santé, les services sociaux, et ensuite l'État prétend qu'il n'y a pas de moyens ou ce n'est pas leur place d'aider les gens. Et je trouve que cette austérité est un choix politique et c'est pas nécessaire car de l'autre côté, on voit que l'État donne des subventions massives aux industries extractives euh, qui, moi, je le considère comme un scandale national car on a des milliards de dollars de fonds publics, nos taxes, nos impôts, qui sont versés chaque année à des entreprises pétrolières et gazières qui endangent notre futur seulement pour la rentabilité. Et ce n'est pas acceptable.
It's really disgusting. Karishma, if you don't have the translation, we're talking about the corporate welfare bums. This is what my grandpa, David Lewis, who was a leader of the federal NDP in the early 70s, ran a whole campaign talking about the corporate welfare bums and how much public money is given to profitable corporations every year. And he said this one thing that always remember, that that government and big business both hold hands in your pocket. And here we have Bushra's joined us. Bushra, I saw you were on another webinar right before the top of the clock.
Yeah,
This
hi
webinar hopping
everyone.
tonight.
Yeah, it's funny. Your wife was there, and I saw her sharing backgrounds. Hi everyone, it's so good to be here. What an honor. Some of my besties in this call, and what a lively chat. Loving reading all of those comments about people's experiences with unemployment, lack of transit. Yeah, all of this. This is, all of these reasons are why we're here. We need bold and audacious leadership. And Avi Lewis led NDP to really bring us out of what I consider like the seventh Harry Potter, where things are just really dark outside and it feels like the Death Eaters are coming to get you. And yeah, this is why we're here. I'm not gonna say anything that hasn't already been said. We're going to continue this conversation, but I want to take this moment to make the most important pitch of the night, which is Parker is going to run a poll right now on how many of you that are joining us. I see that there's 176 folks in this call are actually members of the NDP, because in order to vote for Avi, you have to become a member, and it takes a few seconds. And this is so important because yeah, I think I'm gonna go back to the Harry Potter reference. This was not planned, but we're really like subterfuging the NDP by supporting the Lewis for Leader campaign, by taking over. And this is not about Avi, it's about our futures. It's about a future where Bushra doesn't have to pay back her $55,000 student loan debt, where we have accessible public transit, access to affordable housing, and national rent control. So it's really about the things that matter to us and our life. And so I'm gonna hold this space while I want at least like 10 people in this call that are not members to become members right now. It's only $5. Well, it's only $5, especially if you're underemployed. And I know the experience of being a young person. In my day job, I work on a jobs campaign, and I talk to young people every day about sort of how hard it is out there. I've lived the experience of being at a metro station and not having the money to pay for my fare, and like waiting for my mom to send me the money. And I know that is an experience shared by so many people in this call today, but that $5 is towards our shared collective future. Yeah, to get us out of this deep petro state and out of the seventh Harry Potter. Anyway, I think the poll might be done, and I want you to send me an emoji reaction if you bought a membership right now. And don't lie to me.
All right, 65 people were already members.
Okay, so that's half of you, and I'm gonna come back. Okay, I'm gonna send it back to the incredible panelists, because I wanna get deeper into this really juicy
Are you
conversation.
going to report back on how many people we got? Because it went by really fast.
I want more emojis.
Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. All right, we got 26 new members. That's pretty cool. That's spectacular. Let's move into the solutions, because we have on this campaign led with the solutions from the start. And yeah, why don't we think of Armaan, Karishma, I know you were familiar with some of the campaign's offer. Take us into this situation in terms of what you really want to see and how we can convey these ideas.
I mean, I guess I can start, but I think one of the solutions, which I'm really glad to hear from you, Avi, is that we really want to move away from years and years and years of not just liberal but conservative policies, which in my view are one and the same. And we need a real like break from that. And I think in order for us to be successful, us as in the Canadian left, we really need to work hand in hand with our partners in civil society, unions, associations, student unions, the list goes on and on. But instead of treating them like stakeholders that we consult every 4 years when we're developing a platform, we need to make them partners in the greater political project that we want for ourselves. Because, I think you put it in a different talk that I heard you speak at, but the NDP is the electoral front, and we need to work with everyone in order to make sure that the future we're proposing to Canadians actually resonates because it's built by Canadians,
Yeah.
not cooked up, in a room of like consultants. That
100%. Yeah, 100%. And like we're releasing our platform, a piece every, week or week and a half. And we're coming out with the Green New Deal piece in the next few days. We already put out the one around public options. But basically, the process of forming the platform for this campaign has been looking at social movements around the country that have been organizing, building a base, and making political demands, and just a question of harvesting what people are already fighting for. This campaign is not about me. It's a celebration of collective power, and it's a celebration of all of the fighting and work and struggle that has already gone on to identify what we need to live dignified lives in a country awash in wealth, and actually put forward those solutions that aren't coming out of a back room. For too long, the NDP, all of the decisions and the policies and the politics have come from a couple of people in the leader's office. And in a real way, we are running this campaign to decentralize power in the party. And that always benefits younger people. It always benefits people from racialized communities. It always benefits people who aren't allowed in the back room in the traditional political systems in Canada. So like the fact that we want to abolish student debt and make tuition free is just an obvious common sense idea that would benefit all of society. It is not the idea of this campaign. We did not come up with it. It is a long-standing demand of the student movement. People who do not understand why public education is a public good and should be free until you're 17, 18 years old. And all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, it becomes your individual investment in your personal future. What the hell? Right? It's a public good. We need a more educated society, and it should absolutely be free. All it does is benefit all of us. So that's one of them. And when we talk about these monopolies and breaking them up, yeah, we need a government that will actually stand up to corporate power and care that it's unfair that a handful of billionaire oligarchs are spying on us from every device and are extracting all the wealth from every part of the economy and are building rocket ships to Mars while we on burning planet Earth are stuck here paying insane prices for groceries. And so we need competition, but more than competition, we need a public option. We need a public option for groceries. We need public grocery stores that are connected to a system of local farming where we actually have a local food supply, which is a climate solution. We need a public option for cell phones and internet. There's still one last public phone company in Canada, SaskTel. They have lower rates. And we need that a network of cell phone providers and internet providers across the country. And we need the government to step up and play a massive role in building out non-market housing. Public developers with public construction companies that are building student housing, non-market housing, cooperative housing, nonprofit housing, all the types of housing that aren't overpriced condos that sit empty because people are using them as investment vehicles rather than actual place to live. We need the federal government to step up and start playing a massive role in the solutions that we need. Karishma, you hearing me preach here? Did I forget
Yeah, I
something
mean,
big?
I feel like before I ask you a little bit more about one of your other solutions, the Green New Deal, I want to say that I completely agree with you. When you said this country is awash with wealth, that resonated with me so much because I hear arguments from centrists or people, again, sliding to the right. They say, oh, but Canada doesn't have enough money to give everybody a form of social welfare or forgive everybody student debt or provide us with free public transit. But somehow we do have the money for Frankensteins like Galen Weston to exist. We have the money in this country. We have it. We're just allowing it to be hoarded. So thank you for saying that, Avi. I wanted to ask you about the Green New Deal, and I know that it's being unraveled over the next few days, being revealed to us, which is really exciting. However, I think what's top of mind for me, at least, and for some other people that are thinking about climate top of mind, is that we have these sort of fake green politicians, which we in the climate nonprofit space, maybe some of you have heard this term, we call it astroturf, when you're being sort of fake in terms of your commitment to the environment. Astroturfs like our current government telling us that these pipelines they're going to be fine. We have carbon capture. We're going to be okay. We're looking for a real Green New Deal. We're looking for something that's actually going to benefit people and planet. And I'd love to hear like a little sneak peek about maybe the top line messaging of what this Green New Deal is going to look like and how it's going to make life better for us and also the world that we live in.
Absolutely. I mean, again, no surprises because the movement that started with the LEAP Manifesto 10 years ago in Canada, that fed into the Green New Deal movement with AOC and the Squad and the Sunrise movement in the United States, has come back across the border for a Canadian Green New Deal in our campaign. And it's a mission moment. It's a society-wide mobilization where we say we have a huge opportunity in this massive existential challenge that we face. We have to change everything. And that can be good news if we make the changes that will actually benefit people's lives, make things cheaper for people, and create a lifetime of family supporting work, of good jobs across the economy. So we have to get off fossil fuels. It's just it's nothing personal. Oil and gas workers, we owe them a lot. You know, they kept the lights on for the entire century, and now we know that the world is moving on, massively over investing in renewables on a global level. There's like $2.4 trillion going into renewables, and less than half that into fossil fuels. So Canada's being left behind. We need power lines, not pipelines. We need a 21st century grid to stretch from coast to coast, and we need to build it with battery storage and make it the venue for a massive rollout of renewable energy from everything from utility level solar to solar on your balcony, right? And we can use Canadian steel that we can't sell to the States because of tariffs. We can create unionized jobs and have tons of electricians and other industrial workers. And we can trade renewable clean energy across east-west, across provinces. We could put a heat pump in every single home, in every single apartment, in every single condo and house in this entire country. And we could create an entire industry under public ownership to put these amazing things that give you air conditioning and heating. Lots of places in this country, like British Columbia, we didn't need air conditioning before. Now we have heat domes that one year will steal 619 lives. Vulnerable older folks who needed air conditioning, couldn't get out of their apartments, didn't have it. A heat pump in every single home would create an entire new industry where we need to train up people to install them and train up people to fix them. And everybody can have air conditioning and heating from these and get off of fossil fuels for buildings. We're talking about a Youth Climate Corps. Bushra has been campaigning with so many other people about the Youth Climate Corps for years now. And then we finally won in the last federal budget $40 million for a Youth Climate Corps, which is a pittance. I mean, we're going to celebrate it. We're going to claim that victory. And the whole Youth Climate Corps movement should. We need at least $1 billion a year in the Youth Climate Corps to create tens of thousands of jobs for young people. Any young person who wants to work to make our society better, to prevent forest fires, to remediate wetlands, to install those heat pumps, to learn a trade and be part of a 21st century electricity grid, or to work in the care economy, because care work is climate work, low carbon care work, taking care of elders, taking care of kids. These are climate jobs, and a Youth Climate Corps could just explode possibilities for young people. Instead, the Carney government, by the way, put $40 million into the Youth Climate Corps. They put $1 billion into AI, to destroy the jobs that young people need. And they put a tiny fraction of that into creating 350 jobs that young people need. We want to flip those completely, and a Canadian Green New Deal would put the priority on a Youth Climate Corps that would blow people's minds.
No crumbs. No crumbs.
No crumbs. We are not settling for crumbs anymore. We're going for the whole enchilada. Enchiladas don't have crumbs. Ignore that joke. What do we got, Eric, now? I see a big donate slide. I think it's time to introduce Eric Chirpett, our fundraising director. Hi, Eric. That was a really smooth and non-obvious transition, don't you think?
Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect. Okay, yeah, there's a giant donate button up on the screen. That's great. Bonjour, je m'appelle Eric Chapie. Je suis le directeur de collecte de fonds pour la campagne. J'ai le grand plaisir de voir les gens ici ce soir. I'm not just wearing this toque to appear more youthful. I'm in a new place that has very poor insulation that we figured out over the course of the winter, and we're trying not to spend hundreds of dollars more on heating.
Free home energy retrofits. This is part of it.
Yeah.
And those heat pumps have to be free, by the way.
Yeah, and this this happens to be my first time, coming into one of these solidarity sessions to talk about fundraising, and it happens to be when I'm talking to a bunch of younger people at a time where it's potentially one of the worst times in a century for young people, or longer. It's a really, really bad time. I'm aware of that, and I know that a lot of people here will not have the ability to contribute, right? But I always talk to people about fundraising in a way that, like, we can always talk to people about fundraising, whether they have money or not, because people can fundraise themselves, right? Like, you might have friends, you might have family, you might be able to give yourself, but it's really important for people to know and understand why campaigns like these actually need money, and it's not something that gets talked about a lot, because I think there's this sentiment on the left that money shouldn't be a part of politics, right? And it shouldn't. Right? That's the reality. It shouldn't be. Politics shouldn't be bought and paid for. There used to be, and the way that it should be is there should be subsidies, right? There should be subsidies that subsidize parties so that politicians don't have to reach out to the rich and the powerful to fund their campaigns. And back in the day, just to really quickly go on a story here, we used to have a system where corporations and unions could donate to political parties. Jack Layton negotiated an agreement at the time with the Liberals to ban that and replace it with a per vote subsidy. So each party used to get $2 per vote per year. And for a long time, that was the NDP's main source of funding until Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper came in and eliminated that in 2015. So now, like, 100% of the funding that goes to federal politics in Canada is from donations from people, right? There's nothing else. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the way that it is. And if we look to, the examples of some of the most successful left-wing movements that we've seen, referencing Zoran here, of course, and Bernie before that, and AOC. Fundraising is not just about the money to finance the campaign, right? It's about the narrative that it creates. Bernie in 2016, when he was running to be the Democratic primary nominee, was, one of the big validators for his campaign was record-breaking fundraising numbers. He was out fundraising politicians that were backed by super PACs with small donors, right? We all know the average, $27 donation, all the memes around Bernie's fundraising, right? It became a cultural thing. I'm once again asking you to make a donate, right? Like, these are things that have now become a part of the core narrative of success, right? And if we can come out of this leadership race having broken fundraising records after the NDP's worst election, that's just something that gets highlighted and highlights Avi, highlights the campaign, and highlights the issues that Avi is frontlining in the media, right? And it gets people who are sitting on the fence, who are waiting, excited about getting on board with the campaign, right? That's why the donation really matters. And when it comes to what we're actually putting it towards, it goes towards hiring incredible organizers. Like, a lot of the staff on our campaign are young people, right? Like, we're actually hiring young people right now to do outreach for us. So
It's a
if you
jobs
are someone,
program.
yeah, if people like talking to people, and you think you're good at talking to people and you want to help us get members, shoot us an email and send us your resume, right? We're hiring. Yeah, and that's what the funding goes towards. It helps us reach more people faster, right? And grow this movement faster. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be anything, right? We have people giving $5, $10, $25. And I didn't have time to make dinner tonight, so I had to grab a shawarma plate quickly, and it was $25, right?
Yeah.
If we had, 150 people here, if we got an average of $25 from people on this call, that would be literally over $3,000 from one phone call, right? So that is the kind of thing that we're talking about, is large scale, people powered, grassroots giving campaigns.
All right,
And the other thing,
telethon is over, Eric. There's no other
yeah,
thing.
I know.
We got
Yeah.
10 minutes to talk about how we're going to win this stuff.
Okay. Last thing I will sign off on is just remember there are tax credits too. And if you go and you send people to the website, you'll see the tax credits that people get back as long as they're paying income tax. Okay. So let your friends know, your family know. Thank you so much. I will pass it.
Eric, merci. Let's talk about how we win this stuff, because I think one of the things that always irritates me about the discourse about young people is, oh, young people are apathetic, young people are checked out, they're just on their phones. We're all on our goddamn phones. No, young people don't have a monopoly on that. Everybody's checked out of this system because we're not getting our essential needs met, and we're paying through the nose for stuff that breaks and goes to landfill. And there's a self-fulfilling prophecy about that. Yes, lots of young people are checked out because they're especially affected by the system. But I think it's really, that's the answer. Young people are being crushed by the cost of living emergency. And even so, young people are leading in all of the most important movements that are building the power behind these solutions, like the Youth Climate Corps and the Green New Deal and the public options and and free tuition. Young people are leading. And so we just need to invite more people and widen the circle, because action is the antidote to despair. And collective action is the most exciting and connecting and validating and lovely thing to do. So let's talk about a little bit about the culture of organizing. I want to start with Karishma, because you, I think a lot about how to engage young people, and you see them engaged in massive numbers on your platforms. And then I think you have a really strong sense of what a political force young people are and can be in this country.
Yeah, thanks for asking that question, Avi. I find that I've been creating content for a long time, but I'd say I got more politically involved a few years ago, like maybe 2 to 3 years ago, and I started making little vlogs of me going canvassing and making new friends as I did so. And even just sharing that, it was on a campaign here in Kitchener-Waterloo. We got a bunch of new people out to the campaign office just because they were looking to make some new friends. And I thought that was so beautiful. And Bushra, she's one of my best friends, and I know her from organizing. And I
Is it
think
really,
that
is that how you met? You met through organizing? I didn't know
that's
that.
right. We met through the
That's so
Youth
cool.
Climate Corps campaign, and we've since been on a fun little trip to Mont Tremblant, and we painted some rocks outside. And it's the sort of community that I was always looking for, and I found it through organizing. And I think that whilst it feels so amazing to be part of social change, I always struggled with finding friends that politically aligned with me. Like, I was always that one weird kid that worried about the turtles in the ocean and didn't want to talk about it with my school friends because it wasn't cool. But now, like, I have a bunch of friends that care about turtles too, and I can talk about it with no shame, unapologetically. And I think that that's the magic of the community that you find through organizing, is that you find people that are like you, and so you don't have to worry about sussing out what someone's politics are. You're just automatically best friends. And I think that's awesome. And I think that I know we only have like 7 minutes left, but I had one little thing to add, which was a
Please.
lot of people ask me online, like, what difference can one person make, right? Like, what can I do in the face of a burning boreal forest in northern Manitoba and floods happening in BC and an atmospheric river? You can, donate your time, you can donate your money, you can get politically involved, you can vote for a leader you believe in. That is one person making a real change. That is, for me, if I were to give people advice on how one person can make a difference, it's by getting involved with things like this and making your political stance known through your vote. So that would be my answer to that question. A little bit long-winded,
I
but
get
I'll
that
pass.
no, I get that question too. And the other part of it is, one person can only do so much. But when you're part of a collective project, there's an exponential thing that happens. And I think we need to talk a little bit about the NDP, because the youth wings of the NDP have always been the most critical of the party. And I've had a lot of criticisms of the NDP, particularly. I don't know anything about the other parties, but I think we really need to democratize the NDP. And I think there's been too much central control in the NDP, and I think young people have really felt that too. But also, electoral politics is not the only way to make change. And we know that there are hard limits to what elections can do. We live in a capitalist system where generally the political class serves the powerful. We have never won an NDP government at the federal level before. And electoral politics happens in this box where policy and laws are made, and change is also in the culture, and change is also in social movements, and change is also in militant trade unions that can call a general strike and shut down an entire economy, which has happened at some pretty important moments in Canadian political history. But there is something that we are nerds about in the NDP, which is we're the electoral people who care about how to win elections, how to win leadership conventions, and how to operate within the political space in solidarity with social movements and trade unions and youth movements and other social forces. Armaan, you chose to do your activism and organizing inside the orange tent in the constraints of the electoral system. Why? What are the beauties and what are the limits of that for you?
There's there's definitely a lot of limits with just being active in partisan politics. And that's why I encourage all my colleagues, all my comrades, let's get involved with the NDP, but I made some of my closest friends, some really great friends, including Bushra, also in social movements when we were fighting for the Youth Climate Corps, just like Karishma. And we later hung out again in NDP spaces when we were knocking doors in Mississauga, Streetsville in this most recent election.
For
And
candidate Bushra.
exactly. And so for me, what it comes down to is organizing. I mean, my day job's I organize labor, and organizing is relational, and it's about building community, of course. And where we come short in partisan politics right now is that we make a relationship with a community member, and that relationship ends after election day. And so we need an NDP that's organizing 365 days a year and is putting not just young people, but everyday people, like folding them into the process rather than talking to them only at the end when we need to ask them to go to the ballot box and tick off the NDP as their one contribution toward movement. No, we need to ensure that people are contributing in various ways. We all have different strengths, and it's only going to make our party stronger. Yeah, I think it needs to be both within the orange tent and also outside of that in our various social movements that we're all a part of, because nobody exists just within the party.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, I think that I've spent most of my working life over the last decades doing filmmaking and journalism and storytelling in support of social movements around the world. And I know that a lot of people who work in different kinds of organizing, whether climate or worker organizing or social justice causes of different kinds, don't have a ton of time for party politics. But at this point, with all of these crises bearing down on us, we cannot leave that space just to the keeners and as Miles, one of our teammates, calls like the shirt tuckers, to just take over politics and be the ones who dominate that place where laws are made. It's not the only way we can organize, but we cannot leave that space open, especially in a time of the rising extreme right and of rising fascism. So, oh my God, we have a credible plan to win. Nobody warned me about this. Really? No, I'm just kidding. Bushra, are you going to take us through this?
Yeah.
I love it. Let's make a list. Let's check it off. Come on.
All right, I'm back, y'all. So yeah, our credible plan to win is that basically, our runway is getting shorter and shorter as every day passes. We are 55 days away from the cutoff date that you can become a member. And this is one of the reasons why I keep coming on here and pitching that you become a member right now, because I know my friends and I know the people on this call, we tend to leave things to the last minute or snooze our task list every day, but we need to become a member right now so that we can recruit thousands of other young people to join the NDP between right now and the cutoff date on the 28th. This is especially important because we're trying to revive this party and bring young people in. And that's going to take all of us. So not only do I want you to become a member tonight, I want you to share this campaign with 5 to 10 people in your life, your classmates, your neighbors, the mom whose kid you babysit, your hockey coach. I don't know, I'm coming up with random. Because we have until the 28th to sign up new members. And then, we have another 2 months to basically persuade folks that Avi is the leader with our vision for an NDP that we support and hopefully, build the NDP we deserve and want and desire. So yeah, I think I think there's there's space in the chat. Yeah, there's a poll coming in. And while that's happening, I guess I want to share a few words. I guess this is my time to talk, since I love to talk. This year, I ran in the federal election. As you all heard, I was a candidate in Mississauga Streetsville. And, like I said, I don't come from money or power, or I don't come up from a family that runs for office. Like, I'm a first-gen immigrant, daughter of migrants. Like, the last 3 generations of my family have done a mass migration, dealing with genocide, displacement, and even like studying political science. Like, my parents were like, "What the hell are you gonna do with that?" Like I come from that kind of a family, and so to run for office is like such a huge leap, right? But I've spent the last decade organizing in different movements, the student movement, fighting for a free education, fighting every academic institution I have studied at for transparent, survivor-centric sexual misconduct policies, investigating harassments so that BIPOC youth can finish their education and not getting pushed out of leadership positions. Working on the 2019 federal election to get the youth vote out, knowing how important democracy is, because I grew up in a military dictatorship. And here I am. In the last 2.5 years, I have had the honor and privilege of leading the national campaign for a youth climate corps. So many people in this call are from that campaign. And like Avi has said, we've had this huge breakthrough, but it's measly. Like, I want to be the Oprah of jobs. I want to be able to look at people and be like, you get a job. But right now, we've only won 350 jobs after working tirelessly. And this is why we need a leader in the NDP that's bold and audacious, and that doesn't just echo the sentiments of the movements that we represent, but actually like brings us on, and like, we are the ones creating that policy, not just like Avi alone in some room or some lobbyist that he's hired, but it's a shared struggle and a shared sort of co-creation of the world that we're fighting for. And something that I've been thinking about a lot about, like, with this sort of $40 million win that, we can only really hire 300 people with, is the stakes, right? So whether we're organizing in our building with the tenants or in our campuses for survivors, having leadership that, like, they basically pitch the stakes that we can imagine with, right? And this is something that the NDP has failed at time and time again. They have failed to imagine what we deserve. And so we must seize this moment. And that starts with becoming a member. I'm starting to sound like a like a television advertisement. But yeah, this is me, and Emma's very scary.
Wow, that desktop just gave me some serious anxiety. Bushra, that was beautiful. Can we just take a moment and say thank you to the future leader of the NDP, Bushra Asghar? If Bushra had been ready to run this time, I wouldn't have done it. And I just want to say another thing that Bernie said. It's we, not me. This is not about me, guys. It really isn't. It's about us. It's about what we can do together. You see, Bushra, Karishma, Armaan, Rosa has been such an incredible source of renewable energy on the campaign so far. We have the leaders that we need among us, and we only do this together. And it's also a hell of a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So please join the NDP tonight and text 5 of your friends, all of your family members, your sisters, her husband, your brother-in-law, everyone, because we can't do it alone. We need all of you. And I think Rosa's dropping a lot of different links, right? Friend banks. Really the way forward is not just us becoming a member today, but it's by recruiting all of those who love us and care about our future. That mom who's always like, when are you going to get married? Are you going to have kids? Like, it's time to be like, hey, I can really only do those things if we have the political landscape in which, I can raise children safely. And all of those complicated conversations that you have during the holidays.
that all come down to scanning a QR code,
Yes.
right? And apparently you're a hockey coach too, which I don't know how many hockey coaches are in the extended community of this call, but I really love that one. That was a good one, reaching deep.
Apparently a cricket coach for you. I heard
Yeah.
you used to
Oh
play
yeah, I'm
cricket.
wickets. I'm wickets. I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible.
thank you.
Wow. All right. I think that's the end of our beautiful time together. I can't wait to talk to so many people on this call tonight. I hope that percentage number of members has gone up to 100%. I obsessively look at myself on the relational organizing dashboard to be like, oh my God, she's only number 6. I have to climb the ladder.
Socialists can compete in like loving, safe, and mutually supportive ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Madhav, what's stopping you from signing up? Like, is it a coffee with me? Like, let's do it. I want to convince you. Um, anyway,
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Karishma. Thanks, Armaan. Rosa, superstar. Thank you. Bushra, it was so nice to have you in here.
yeah.
Have a beautiful night, everybody. Let's
Good
do this again.
night. Bye.
Be well, everyone.
Bye.